Chapter 3. Lady Jaina Proudmoore stood atop the butte on Razor Hill, gazing out over the land where she helped form the most unlikely alliance in the history of the world. Razor Hill was Orc territory, of course, but Jaina and Thrall had agreed that, given her abilities, it was best for their meetings to happen on Orcland, where Thrall generally was. For Jaina's part, her magic allowed her to go wherever she wished to, in an instant. In truth, when the summons had come from Thrall, it had come as a relief. Jaina's entire adult life, it seemed, consisted of going from one crisis to another. She had fought demons and orcs and warlords, and had the fate of the world in her small hands more than once. She once was the lover of Arthas, when he was a noble warrior, but he had been corrupted, was now the Lich King of the Scourge, the cruelest warlord in a world that had seen its fair share of them. Some day, she knew, she would have to face him in battle. Medivh, the Sargeras-cursed wizard who had seemingly doomed humanity by letting demons and orcs overrun this world, became a staunch ally who convinced Jaina and Thrall to unite their people with the Night Elves against the Burning Legion. After that, when the humans built Theramore as their new home on Kalimdor, Jaina had thought that things would calm down. But things were never calm when one ruled, even in times of peace, and she found that the day-to-day running of Theramore almost made her long for the days when she was fighting for her life. Almost, but not quite. In truth, she had a few regrets, but she also grabbed the opportunity for a respite like a desert traveller grabbing a water flask. Standing at one edge of the butte, she looked far down on the small orc village at the base of the hills. Well-defended huts dotted the harsh brown landscape. Even in times of peace, the orcs made sure their homes would not be taken. A few orcs walked between the huts, greeting each other, some pausing to speak. Jaina couldn't help but smile at such quotidian simplicity. Then she heard the low, steady rumble that heralded the arrival of Thrall's airship. Turning around, she saw the massive dirigible approach. As it grew closer, she saw that only Thrall stood on the undercarriage that was carried along beneath the massive, hot air-filled canvas that propelled the machine through the air. Said canvas was decorated with a variety of symbols, some of which Jaina recognized as pictographs from the old version of the Orc language. One, she knew, was the symbol of Thrall's family, the Frostwolf clan. The airships that Theramore had rented from the goblins were more nondescript affairs. Jaina wondered if the Orcs' way might not be better, to imbue their non-living transports with personalities akin to that of living mounts. In the past, when they'd met on the butte, Thrall had at least brought a guard or two. That he was travelling alone now concerned Jaina greatly. As the airship approached, Thrall pulled some levers and their dirigible slowed, finally coming to a hover over the butte. Pulling one final lever, Thrall lowered a rope ladder and climbed down. Like most orcs, Thrall had green skin and black hair, the latter braided and draped over his shoulder. The black plate armour with bronze trim he wore belonged to Orgrim Doomhammer, Thrall's mentor and the man for whom Durota's capital city had been named. Strapped to his back was Orgrim's weapon, from which he derived his last name, the Doomhammer, a two-handed weapon that Jaina had seen Thrall use in battle. The blood of many a demon had been shed with that great hammer. What stood out about Thrall most, though, were his blue eyes, a colour rarely found in orcs. They bespoke both his intelligence and his kindness. 3 years ago, while both Theramore and the cities of Durota were being built, Jaina had given Thrall a magical talisman, a stone carved in the shape of one of the old Trisvellan runes. Jaina had its twin in her own possession. Thrall needed only to hold it and think of her, and Jaina's talisman would glow. The reverse also held true. If they wished to meet in secret to discuss issues that affected one or the other, or both, of their people away from the politics and their positions as leaders, or if they simply wished to talk as old friends and comrades, all they had to do was activate the talisman. Jaina would then teleport to the butte and Thrall would come by airship, since the butte was inaccessible any other way. "It is good to see you, my friend," Jaina said with a warm smile. And she meant it. In all her life, she had known no one as honourable and dependable as this orc. Once, she would have numbered her father and Arthas among those. But Admiral Proudmoore insisted on attacking the orcs at Kalimdor, refusing to believe his own daughter when she said that the orcs were as much victims of the Burning Legion as humans were, and were not evil. Like so many people Jaina had known, Admiral Proudmoore was unable to accept that the world was different from the way it was when he was younger, and fought against any alteration to it. That included the presence of orcs, and Jaina had been put in the terrible position of betraying her own father to Thrall's people in the hope of stopping the bloodshed. As for Arthas, he had become one of the greatest evils in the world. Now Jaina had found herself in a place where she trusted the leader of the Orc clans more than the man she once loved or her father. When her father had attacked, Thrall, who had seen the pain in Jaina's eyes when she told him how to defeat the Admiral, had kept his word, and he had never been one to accept that the world was the way it was. He had been captured as an infant and raised by a human named Adairs Blackmore, to be the perfect slave, even given a name representing that. But Thrall threw off his chains and rallied the orcs first to freedom, then to the ways of his people that had been lost to the demonic hordes that had brought them to this world. Now Jaina saw a different look in Thrall's unusual blue eyes. Her dear friend was furious. "We signed no treaty, you and I," Thrall started in immediately, not even returning Jaina's greeting. "We made no provisions for our alliance. We trusted that our bond had been forged in blood, and we would never betray each other." "I have not betrayed you, Thrall." Jaina tensed briefly, but with the ease of long practice kept her emotions in check. She didn't appreciate the blanket accusation of betrayal without even the conversational niceties, or even an acknowledgement of their bond beyond his out-of-nowhere belief that she had broken it. But the first thing that she had been taught as an apprentice mage was that strong emotions and wizardry didn't always mix well. She increased her grip on the ornate wooden staff she carried, a legacy from her mentor, Archmage Antonidas. "I do not believe you have." Thrall's tone was still belligerent. Unlike his fellow orcs, gruffness was not Thrall's default manner, no doubt due to his human upbringing. "However, it seems your people may not hold to our bond as strongly as you." Her voice tight, Jaina asked, "Thrall, what are you talking about?" "One of our merchant vessels, the Orgatha, was harassed by pirates." Jaina frowned. As much as they tried to prevent it, privateering remained a problem on the seas. "We've increased the patrols as much as possible, but patrols are useless if they are just going to sit and watch. The Orgatha saw one of your patrols nearby. It was close enough to be seen in dense fog, yet they did nothing to aid Captain Bollock and his crew. Bollock even sounded the foghorn, and your people just sat." Her calm in inverse proportion to Thrall's anger, Jaina asked, "You say your lookout could see them. That doesn't necessarily mean that they could see the Orgatha." That brought Thrall up short. Jaina continued, "Your people have better vision than we do, and when they heard the foghorn, they probably took it as a sign to get out of the way." "If they were close enough for my people to see, they were close enough to hear a boarding party. My people have better vision, it's true, but we also do not do battle in stealth. I do not believe that your patrol did not hear what happened." "Thrall." The orc turned around, throwing his hands into the air. "I had thought that things would be different here. I had thought that your people had finally come to accept mine as equals. I should have realized that when it came to taking up arms against their own to aid an orc, humans would abandon us." Now Jaina was having a harder time reining in her temper. "How dare you? I had thought that after all we'd been through, you'd at least give my people the benefit of the doubt." "The evidence? What evidence? To whom have you spoken besides this Captain Bollock and his crew?" Thrall's silence answered Jaina's question. "I will find out which patrol ship it was. Where was the Orgatha attacked?" "Half a league off the coast near Ratchet, an hour from port." Jaina nodded. "I'll have one of my soldiers investigate. Those patrols are coordinated by Northwatch." Thrall tensed. "What is it?" The orc turned back around to face her. "There is considerable pressure on me to take Northwatch Keep back by force. And there is considerable pressure on me to keep it." Thrall and Jaina stared at each other. Now that he faced her again, Jaina saw something different in the orc's blue eyes. Not anger, but confusion. "How did this happen?" Thrall asked the question in a quieter voice, all belligerence now seemingly burned out of him. "How did it come to where we bicker over such idiocy?" Jaina couldn't help but laugh. "We're leaders, Thrall. Leaders take their warriors into battle." "In times of war, yes," Jaina said. "In times of peace, they lead them differently. War is a grand endeavour that subsumes daily existence, but when it ends, there is still daily existence." She walked over to her old comrade and put her small hand on his massive arm. "I will investigate this, Thrall, and learn the truth. And if my soldiers did not do their duty by our alliance, then I swear to you they will be punished." Thrall nodded. "Thank you, Jaina. And I apologize for my accusations. But my people have endured so much. I have endured so much, and I will not see our people mistreated again." "Nor will I," Jaina said quietly. "And perhaps—" She hesitated. "What?" "Perhaps we should draft a formal treaty. Because you were right before. You and I may trust each other, but not all humans and orcs will do likewise. And much as we say we wish it otherwise, we will not live forever." Thrall nodded. "It is often difficult to remind my people that you are no longer our slave masters. In many ways, they wish to continue the rebellion even though the time of orc enslavement is long past. Sometimes I get caught up in their fever, especially since I was raised in bondage by a creature as foul as any member of the Burning Legion. Sometimes I believe the worst, and so will my people when I'm gone and can no longer remind them. So perhaps you are correct." "Let us solve this crisis first," Jaina said, giving Thrall a smile. "Then we will speak of treaties." "Thank you." Then Thrall shook his head and chuckled. "What is it?" "You are nothing like her in any way, but when you smiled, just for an instant, you reminded me of Tari." Jaina remembered that Taretha Foxton, whom most called Tari, was the daughter of a member of Adalus Blackmore's household, and had been instrumental in Thrall's escape from the Blackmore's clutches at the cost of her own life. Orcs immortalized their history in song form. A Lokamon chronicled the starting of a family. A Loktra, a battle. A Lokvednod, the life of a hero. To the best of anyone's knowledge, the only human ever to have a Lokvednod sung of her life was named Tari. And so Jaina bowed her head and said, "I am honoured to be so associated. I will send Colonel Lorena to Northwatch, and as soon as she reports, I will inform you." Thrall shook his head. "Another woman in your military. Humans astound me sometimes." Jaina's tone grew frosty. Again she tightly gripped the staff. "What do you mean? Can men and women not be equals in your world?" "Of course not. Nor would I say," and he added quickly before Jaina could interrupt, "that they are unequal, any more than I would say that an insect and a flower could be equals. They serve completely different purposes." Grateful for the opening, Jaina said the same thing to Thrall that she had said to Antonidas, which, as a brash young woman, she had insisted on becoming his apprentice. Back then the Archmage had said to her, "It is no more women's nature to become wizards than it is a dog's nature to compose an aria." As then, she now said to Thrall, "Is not what separates us from animals that we can change our nature? After all, there are those who would argue that an orc's nature was to be a slave." Then Jaina shook her head. "However, there are many who think as you do. It is why women have to work twice as hard to achieve the same position as a man, which is why I trust Lorena more than any of my other colonels. She will learn the truth." At that, Thrall threw his massive head back and laughed heartily. "You're a fine woman, Jaina Proudmoore. You remind me how much I still have to learn about humans, despite having been raised by them." "Given who raised you, I'd say that was more because you were raised by them." Thrall nodded. "A fine point. Have your female colonel investigate the matter. We will speak again when she is done." He moved towards the rope ladder that still dangled from the hovering airship. "Thrall." He stopped and turned to face her. She gave him as encouraging look as she could. We will not let this alliance fail. Again he nodded. No, we shall not. With that he climbed the rope. Jaina, for her part, muttered an incantation in a language known only to mages, then took a deep breath. Her stomach felt as if it were being sucked out through her nose, as the butte, the airship, Thrall and the Razor Hill shifted and altered around her, growing indistinct and hazy. A moment, and then everything coalesced into the familiar surroundings of her chambers on the top floor of the largest of the castles that made up the tallest structures in Theramore. She did most of the work of state here, in this small room with its desk and thousands of scrolls, rather than in the throne room, an ostentatious title for a like space. Jaina sat in the throne as little as possible, even during the weekly occasions when she saw petitioners. She generally paced in front of the embarrassingly large chair rather than actually park herself in it, and used the room sparingly. These chambers felt more like Antonidas' study, where she learned her craft, complete with disorganized desk and badly sorted scrolls. That made it feel like home. Something else the throne room had that the chambers didn't was a window with a view. Jaina knew she'd never get any work done if there was a view of Theramore. She would be distracted alternately by wonder at what they had built here and fright at her responsibility for it. Teleporting was always an intense, draining process, and while Jaina's training allowed her to be battle-ready instantly upon completing a teleport, all things being equal, she preferred to give herself a little time to recover. She gave herself those moments now before calling out to her secretary. "Jury!" The old widow came in through the main entrance. The chambers had 3 entrances. 2 of them were known to all, the one Jury had just used, and the one to the hallway and staircase that led to Jaina's private apartments. The third was a secret passageway meant to be an escape route. Only 6 other people knew of it, and 5 of those were the workers who had built it. Dury glared at Jaina through her spectacles. "No need to shout. I'm sitting right outside the door like I always am. How'd your meeting go with the orc?" Sighing, Jaina said, not for the first time, "His name is Thrall." Dury waved her arms about so much that the frail woman almost lost her balance. Her spectacles fell off her nose and dangled from their string around her neck. "I know, but it's such a stupid name. I mean, orcs have names like Hellscream and Doomhammer and Drakathan and Burks and the like, and he calls himself Thrall? What self-respecting orc would call himself that?" Not bothering to explain that Thrall was more self-respecting than any orc she had known, since the explanation had never worked in the previous hundreds of times she tried it, Jaina said instead, "It's Drakthar, not Drakthan." Either way, Dury put her spectacles back on her nose. "Those are good orc names, not Thrall. Anyhow, how'd it go?" "We've got a problem. Get Kristoff in here and have one of my boys find Colonel Lorena and tell her to put a detail together that's travelling to Northwatch, and then report back to me." Jaina sat at her desk and started sorting through the scrolls, trying to find the shipping reports. "Why Lorena? Shouldn't you get Lothar or Pierce? Someone less, I don't know, feminine? They're a rough bunch in Northwatch." Wondering if she was going to have this conversation every time Lorena's name came up, Jaina said, "Lorena's tougher than Lothar and Pierce combined. She'll be fine." Dury pouted, a poor sight on such an old woman. "It ain't right. Military ain't women's work." Giving up on finding the shipping records, she instead glared at her secretary. "Neither is running a city-state." "Well, that's different," Dury said weakly. "How?" "It just is." Jaina shook her head. 3 years, and Dury had yet to come up with a better answer than that. "Just go get Kristoff and send for Lorena before I turn you into a newt." "You turn me into a newt, you'll never find anything again." Throwing up her hands in frustration, "I can't find anything now. Where are the damn shipping records?" Smiling, Dury said, "Kristoff has 'em. I'll tell him to bring 'em when he comes, shall I?" "Please." Dury bowed, which caused her spectacles to fall off again. Then she left the chambers. Jaina briefly considered throwing a fireball after her, but decided against it. Dury was right. Without her, Jaina would never be able to find anything. Moments later, Kristoff arrived, several scrolls in hand. "Doree said you wanted to see me, milady. Or did you just want these?" He indicated the scrolls. "Both, actually. Thank you," she added as she took the scrolls from him. Kristoff was Jaina's chamberlain. While she ruled Theramore, Kristoff was the one who ran it. His capacity for irritating minutiae made him ideal for the job, and had been the primary thing keeping Jaina from indulging in a homicidal rage when being leader became too much for her not very broad shoulders to bear. He had been the clerk to High Lord Garithos before the war, when his organisational skills had become legendary. Certainly he did not advance in the military due to any physical prowess. Kristoff was tall but rail-thin, seeming almost as frail as Doree, who at least had old age to blame. His straight, dark, just past his shoulder-length hair framed an angular face and hawk nose, a visage that seemed to wear a perpetual scowl. Jaina shared Thrall's story of the attack on Orgutha and the nearby vessel doing nothing to help. Raising a thin eyebrow, Kristoff said, "This story does not seem credible. Half a league off Ratchet, you said?" Jaina nodded. "There were no military boats assigned to that region, milady. The fog was thick. It's possible that the boat Captain Bollock saw was off course." Kristoff nodded, conceding the point. "However, milady, it was also possible that Captain Bollock was mistaken." "It seems unlikely." Jaina walked around the other side of her desk and sat in the chair, placing the shipping records on the only open space. "Orcs have keener eyesight than we do, remember, and they tend to use the most gifted in eyesight as lookouts. We must also consider the possibility that the orcs are lying." Before Jaina could object to this notion, which she very much intended to do, Kristoff held up a long-fingered hand. "I do not speak of Thrall now, milady. The Orcs' war chief is an honourable man, it's true. You do well to place your trust in him, and I believe that he is simply relaying what he was being told by his people." "Then what are you saying?" Jaina knew the answer to the question, but wanted to hear Kristoff confirm it. "I am saying the same thing that I have said to you all along, milady. We cannot afford to blindly trust the Orcs. Individual Orcs have proven honourable, yes, but Orcs as a whole? We would be fools to assume that they all wish us well, and that they all will be as enlightened as Thrall. He was a strong ally against the Burning Legion, and I have nothing but admiration for what he has done. But what he has done is temporary." Kristoff set his thin hands down on the desk, leaning towards Jaina. "The only thing keeping the Orcs in line is Thrall, and the minute he is gone, I can assure you, milady, the Orcs will revert to type and do everything they can to destroy us." Jaina barked a laugh involuntarily. Kristoff's words mirrored Jaina and Thrall's conversation, yet it seemed less rational coming out of the chamberlain's mouth. Kristoff straightened. "Something amuses you, milady?" "No, I believe you are overestimating the situation." "And I believe you are underestimating it. The city-state is all that keeps Kalimdor from being run entirely by the Orcs." Kristoff hesitated, which was unusual. The Chamberlain had made a career out of being forthright, which was one of his more useful characteristics. "What is it, Kristoff?" "Our allies are concerned. The notion of an entire continent under Orc rule is disturbing to many. At present, little is being done, in part because there are other issues, but right now I'm all that is preventing an invasion. As long as the Lady Proudmoore, Great Wizard, victor against the Burning Legion, rules the humans on Kalimdor, the rest of the world will sleep well at night. The moment they believe that the Lady Proudmoore cannot keep the Orcs in line, that will change. And the invasion force will mark your late father's fleet look like a pair of rowboats." Jaina leaned back in her chair. In truth, she had given little thought to the world beyond Kalimdor, busy as she had been with fighting the demons and then building Theramore. And her own father's attack drove home the fact that those who had not actually fought alongside the Orcs still viewed them as little more than animals. But Kristoff should have known better. "What is it you are suggesting, Chamberlain?" "That this Captain Bollock might be an agitator, trying to turn Thrall against you, against us. Even with Northwatch, we are very much alone within Theramore's gates, and could easily find ourselves surrounded by Orcs. And more, with the trolls already on their side and the goblins unlikely to take any side. Jaina shook her head. Kristoff's prediction was the worst nightmare of every human living on Kalimdor. It seemed like only yesterday that they were well on the road to making those nightmares an impossibility. Trade with the orcs was going smoothly. The Barrens, neutral territory between Durotar and Theramore, had been peaceful and orderly, and the two species that had once despised each other had lived in peace for 3 years. The question Jaina now asked herself was whether or not this was a portent of how things should be, or simply a resting period while they recovered from the Burning Legion, and just the calm before the inevitable storm. Before Jaina could contemplate further, a tall, dark-haired woman with a square face, pointed nose and broad shoulders entered. She wore the standard military uniform of plate armour with a green tabard depicting the anchor-shaped emblem of the Kultiras, the former home of the Proudmoore family. Raising her right hand to her forehead in salute, she said, "Colonel Lorena reporting as ordered, my lady." Standing, Jaina said, "Thank you, Colonel. Stand easy. Doree told you what is required?" Jaina always felt short next to Lorena, and so preferred to stand in her presence, to give herself as much height as her smaller form would provide. Lowering her hand upon both arms behind her back, but otherwise still standing ramrod straight with perfect posture, Lorena said, "Yes, ma'am, she did. We leave for Northwatch within the hour, and I've sent a runner to inform Major Davin of our arrival." "Good. That'll be all, both of you." Lorena saluted, turned on her heel and exited. Kristoff, however, hung back a moment. When the Chamberlain refused to speak, Jaina prompted him. "What is it, Kristoff?" It might be wise to have the detail accompanying Lorena remain at Northwatch to fortify it. Without hesitation, Jaina said, "No." "Milady, the orcs want us out of Northwatch altogether, Kristoff, and while I understand why we can't accede to that request, I'm not going to do something as provocative as reinforce it, especially when they believe that we refuse to help them against pirates. I still think—" "You've been excused, Chamberlain," Jaina said frostily. Kristoff glowered at her for a moment before bowing low, spreading his arms and saying, "Milady," before taking his leave.